I called my mom that day and said, Mom, it's different up here. It's just different. That's what KJ Bolden told me when I asked him at the end of the season, what was your welcome to Georgia moment? We're going to talk about that and KJ Bolden's phenomenal freshman season. He broke it all down for me at the end of the season. He had a lot to say, but let's go back to that welcome to Georgia moment, because that was the first question that I asked him during the Sugar Bowl media days, and he knew right away what it was. He lit up, started laughing. Here's the full quote. He said, my first welcome to Georgia moment came pretty early. You got to remember, he was there at the beginning of the year. He came there in January, so he was there for spring practices. He said, we didn't even have the pads on yet. We had an early team run, and my back locked up. I couldn't move. I was stuck. Everyone just looked at me and said, keep running, kid. And he said, that's when I called my mom that day and said, Mom, it's just different up here. It is completely different. Of course, he had a really strong, spring last year when he just got to Georgia. You knew the kid was special. There's a reason Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs pushed hard for a flip from Florida State. They end up getting him on signing day in December of 2023. And we saw this year, this kid is really good. So that was his first welcome to Georgia moment. And I followed that up with, okay, well, what was your welcome to the SEC moment? What was your, your welcome to college football moment? Because he played pretty well against Clemson. I said that. I said, your first game against the Tigers in Atlanta, you played pretty well. When did it hit you that things were kind of different and a lot tougher than you may have thought? He said, man, it was week 2 against against Kentucky in Lexington. He said, quote, I didn't enjoy my Kentucky game. I was doing a lot of arm tackling and not putting my body on guys. I was down on myself after that one, and I knew I had to step up the next week and work on my tackling. It's difficult to play on the road in the SEC. It doesn't matter who you're playing. The fans are going to come out hot. Home field advantage means everything, even against Kentucky. That was a dogfight. You have to bring it every single time. And, he alluded to that more about how tough it is playing in the SEC, especially at a place like Georgia, where more often than not, you're going to get everyone's best. The crowd's going to be into it. You know it's going to be a sellout. Everyone has the Georgia game circled. I don't care who it is, rival or not. Everyone wants to beat the Dogs. And he felt that, right? He can feel it in the, every type of road environment. And he went on to say, that's probably the one thing I don't really think fans kind of understand from a player's perspective. Playing on the road in the SEC, it's a lot tougher than people say it is. Even against a team like Kentucky, because that was a knife fight, a rock fight. I don't know the difference between the two. Either way, KJ Bolden called it a dog fight. But week after week, you could see his progress on the field. And it's not surprising because he was able to learn from Malachi Starks and Dan Jackson. And I'll say this, Malachi Starks came to Georgia the exact same type of way. He was a highly ranked prospect. He was a 5-star from the state of Georgia that came in and was kind of thrown into the fire in that 2022 season. Of course, he lit it up. Game 1, he had that acrobatic leaping interception against Oregon, and he went from there. He got better and better. Probably didn't have the season I think many expected, and I think if you ask Malachi Starks, would probably say he could play better last year in year 3. Either way, dude's going to be a first-round pick, and KJ Bolden is going to be the same way. 5-star safety from the state of Georgia who came in, and they needed him to play early. And he played in all 14 games. I got the numbers right here, I think. Yeah, he played in all 14 games. He started against Tennessee, started against Florida, was 5th on the team with 59 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble. I believe Malachi Starks put up the same type of numbers. He made 68 tackles, 2 interceptions. So very similar freshman seasons, and you knew right away Malachi Starks was going to be a stud, and you could tell last year, KJ Bolden, he's that dog. He is going to be one of the best players on the team next year, and if he continues to improve and develop over the next 6 months, dude's going to be one of the best defensive backs in college football next season. And he did play better and better as the season went along, and he made one of the biggest plays of the season, I think, and it goes overlooked. It was overtime, SEC championship, Texas and Quinn Ewers, Steve Sarkisian, they drew up this kind of mesh concept with a lot of guys kind of crossing patterns underneath, hoping some of the defensive backs get kind of jumbled up in that traffic, allowing one guy to kind of, get free underneath with room to run. Well, KJ Bolden, I believe, was playing zone, and he identified it the entire way. And as soon as that, I believe it was probably the slot receiver who came underneath and got some separation due to the traffic in the middle of the field there, and he just bolted. He bolted to him. He knew exactly what he was supposed to do, made a big open field tackle on that third down, and Texas was forced to kick a field goal. Georgia scored a touchdown on that next possession and won in overtime. But that was an outstanding play for a freshman. He identified exactly, knew what he was doing, saw the play, and made the play. It's one thing to identify it and know what you're doing. It's another thing to do that and then go make the play that you're supposed to make and make a big open field tackle against a really good receiver in clutch time. And that's what KJ Bolden did. But he pushed through. He battled week after week. And then, he had a lot to say about Malachi Starks, too. I asked him, I said, how did you progress under him? What did you learn from him? Dude's an All-American, right? He's a Thorpe Award finalist. You had to learn something from him. And he was pretty short and sweet with his answer. He said, Malachi is both my brother and my mentor. He leads by example. He's always loving on me, asking me questions. He made sure I had everything I needed. And as far as preparation goes, he'd correct me when we were watching film. So you could see that, because of Malachi Starks, I think KJ Bolden got better and better as the week went on. Of course, Malachi Starks had a lot to say about KJ Bolden at the end of the season as well. He said his growth is crazy from when he first got here in the spring to now. He just wanted to continue to grow, and he's not really a freshman anymore. No one is at this point of the season. Playing, especially if you've been starting all year. Just keep playing how you've been playing. That's what he told him. You don't have to change anything up or do anything special. Just be you. You're special. You're a good player. Play your ball. So that was Malachi's message to KJ Bolden. And of course, you can read all of this and more over on Dawg Post. This story should be up over there on the website. So make sure you're checking that out. There's a lot of stuff we're writing now from that Notre Dame Sugar Bowl Media Day, right? I didn't want to ask him about Notre Dame because you can't write about that in February and March and April and May, right? So we tried to ask different type of questions, especially with the freshmen. And KJ Bolden's a great kid. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's a smart, instinctive football player, but he's tough. And he's a hard-hitting, sure-tackling guy who covers a lot of ground. I even joked about him. I said, are you going to Mike Bobo and Kirby saying, hey, can I catch a pass or two? And he laughed because that's what he did at Buford. And I saw it year after year, week after week when I went to watch them because they're obviously very talented. They got a lot of kids at Georgia offers. And Dylan Raiola was committed to Georgia, so we wanted to see Buford a lot. He was committed to Florida State, but every time I watched him, and I knew Georgia was pushing for a flip, but the guy just made plays. Offense, defense, special teams. He probably had one of the best punt returns I've ever seen at the high school level. It was his final game at Buford. They were hosting Grayson. They were at Grayson. And they lost the game, but he took a punt return back to the house from like 80 yards, zigzagged his way all the way through that Grayson special teams unit, which is loaded with D1 players, and then just took off down the field, just outran everyone. It was crazy impressive. But that's what he brings to the table. And if he were on my team, and I've said this for years, KJ Bolden would be catching a pass or two. That guy can stretch the field. He can help you in the screen game, but they don't need him there. They need him at safety. And he's getting better and better and better. His best football is years ahead of him. And I've said before, you don't want to throw a freshman in there, especially in the secondary, but they had to do it with Malachi Starks 3 years ago now. And they had to do it with KJ Bolden, and he passed that test with flying colors. Here's what Glenn Schumann had to say about him. He said, I just think that his poise and his composure in those moments has grown, and he's gained experience. He's obviously a talented individual, and he's earned the right to be out there. He's made some really big plays, and I think he's got a calm demeanor about him. Nobody gets to Georgia without being a really good athlete, but I think sometimes that confidence, that experience, the game slowing down has really helped him all season long. And again, I could go on and on about KJ Bolden, just not only as a kid, but as a football player. He just gets it. He's been a star at every level he's played at. And there's a reason that they didn't want to, they couldn't let KJ Bolden go to Florida State. They got Malachi. They really, really need to have him in 2022. They didn't get Caleb Downs. And Kirby Smart's like, we're not missing on an elite safety 2 years in a row. Not doing it. And they went and got him. They flipped him from Florida State, and he made an immediate impact last year. no Malachi Starks next season, no Dan Jackson. KJ Bolden is going to be the leader, especially at that safety spot, but probably in the secondary as well. So he's only going to get better. He had a phenomenal freshman season. Again, a Football Writers of Association, freshman All-American, All-SEC freshman team. Kid's legit, and he had a lot to say about his freshman season. Of course, you read all of it over on Dawg Post, okay? That's where all the real scoop is. I can't tell you everything on YouTube for free. We want to get y'all over to the website to read everything we've got going on. A lot of great stuff, a lot of great stories over there right now. So make sure you head to dawgpost.com for the latest and greatest Georgia Bulldog team and recruiting news. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you over on the website.